The Baltimore Ravens are a threat year after year to make the postseason with Lamar Jackson under center. But making the postseason and even winning in the postseason is no longer an acceptable goal for this team. We've seen the Ravens become the best in the NFL twice recently, only to fail in the postseason, coming up short of the ultimate goal for both Lamar and the organization. While I would never seek to discredit the accomplishments of the teams who inevitably beat the Ravens and even accomplished that ultimate goal as the Chiefs did last year winning the Super Bowl, the amount of Ravens fans who believe that the Ravens beat themselves in the postseason instead of being beat by another team is not a small number. Again, the Titans team in 2019 and the Chiefs last year in 2023 were fantastic and talented football teams. But when we look at the Ravens and what they accomplished during those two seasons, we know as fans that those two teams showed at times a level of dominance which no other team in the NFL could match. For today's video, I'm going to take you through every position group on this Ravens team and give you one player whose success could be the difference in getting this team over the hump and into position for Lamar to make good on his Super Bowl victory promise. Let's get to it. Welcome in everyone, this is Jordan with Ravens Flash Report, and in this video, unsurprisingly, we will break it down into offensive players and defensive players. Now, as I stated in the intro, when I say these players' success could be the difference maker, I'm saying that their impact for this Ravens team provides that next level of potential based on what we already expect from other players. We know that Lamar Jackson is capable of being the best quarterback in the league. We've seen him do it twice, so you're not going to see a name like Josh Johnson on here. But enough explaining. You'll get the gist as I go through each group and explain how the potential impact of each player can improve this team massively. Defensive line. Travis Jones. I feel like I start out with the offense in almost every single video, so I'm going to flip that on its head for this one and start out with the defense, specifically the defensive line. At this point, Justin Madubuike is becoming known around the league as a top-tier interior defensive lineman, and we know what Michael Pierce and Brent Urban are at this point. But besides Madubuike, the sentiment around the coaches is that Travis Jones has the potential to be on the same level as what we've seen from Justin. Now, I understand that having Madubuike and Travis Jones on the line at the same time is not going to be an every play thing. Rotations are much more a part of daily life on the defensive line than they are on the offensive line. But if the Ravens find themselves in an obvious passing situation, and opponents have to worry about two players with the same caliber and talent as Madubuike, that changes a lot for this defense and how other teams have to prepare for us. Now, I'm not saying that Travis Jones will go out there and have double-digit sacks, but I'm not saying he can't either. Outside linebacker, David Ojabo. Next up, we're going to move to the outside linebacker group, and while it would of course be amazing to see Odafe Oweh have a true breakout season alongside Kyle Van Noy, the player who could totally transform this Ravens pass rush, in my opinion, is David Ojabo. We just saw what KVN can do for the Ravens when playing primarily as a pass rusher, and many people, including Chuck Smith, the Ravens pass rush coach, have said that Odafe Oweh is in for a big season. And this shouldn't be too big of a surprise either, given he has already had success getting into the backfield previously. His only issue has been finishing those sacks. Just like with the defensive line, if David Ojabo can have a breakout season in what could be considered his first real season should he stay healthy, the impacts of that for this defense would be incredible. To get a better understanding of what I'm talking about, picture this. Kyle Van Noy comes out in 2024 producing at or near the same level he gave us last year. Odafe Oweh steps up and becomes what many fans and coaches believe he can be. And then David Ojabo performs at or near the same level as these other two. That would mean the Ravens have three outside linebackers flirting with double-digit sacks. I said a few weeks ago that I didn't have much faith in David Ojabo and that anything he gave the Ravens would be a bonus. Well, as with any negative prediction that I've made about the Ravens or a specific player, I hope to be proven very wrong about that. Inside linebacker, Trenton Simpson. For inside linebacker, the player I've chosen is Trenton Simpson. I chose Simpson not because I don't believe in him or because I believe anything he gives us is unexpected. My reasoning here is because if he can exceed expectation during his first full season as a starter next to Roquan Smith, then this defense could be just as dominant or even more so than it was last year. Patrick Queen is a good football player, and if you put him next to Roquan Smith, we saw him become a great football player. But one of the only knocks on Patrick Queen was that he could be a bit of a liability in coverage on running backs or tight ends. This is not the case for Trenton Simpson, who we've already seen in preseason show excellent coverage skills breaking up a pass to one of Atlanta's tight ends, as well as pulling down an interception against Green Bay. If we can get out of Simpson the level of physicality that Patrick Queen showed last year as a tackling machine, combined with the blitzing prowess we've already seen Simpson display, then add in his even better ability to drop into coverage and the possibility for this defense to be even more dynamic and difficult to prepare for, become exponentially higher. Cornerback, Nate Wiggins. Honestly, with the level of expectation that I have for this year's secondary, it's actually kind of hard finding a player whose ability to make a difference isn't already known. Nate Wiggins was drafted by the Ravens 30th overall this year, and even then on draft night, many people were saying the Ravens got another steal for their defense. With Marlon Humphrey looking prime for a bounce-back season and Brandon Stephens coming off not just a career year, but being the Ravens' best corner during what was statistically one of the best seasons a defense could have. If you pair these two players up with Wiggins, who has shown the capacity to exceed even the level of expectation that comes with being a first-round pick, this secondary will truly become a no-fly zone. Over the past few seasons, there have been only a few offenses who truly threaten with three top-tier receiving threats: the Cincinnati Bengals, the San Francisco 49ers, and some would say the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, this year there are several teams who seem to fit the bill early on: the Miami Dolphins, the Houston Texans, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Two of those opponents the Ravens will face this year, and there's always the possibility that they'll face Miami in the postseason. If this defense, from a cornerback perspective, is ready and capable of dealing with an offense with the potency of these teams, we can truly make life difficult for every one of our opponents. Safety, Marcus Williams. For the safety position, I was torn between two players. The first was Eddie Jackson, because if he can come in and play anywhere near the level he did before his injuries started to take a toll, we could have three great safeties on the field. The reason that I chose Marcus Williams, however, is because the Ravens, as good as they have been defensively over the past two seasons, have yet to have a full season with a fully healthy Marcus Williams alongside Kyle Hamilton. As great as it would be to have Eddie Jackson on the field playing well, and it would be great, the reason the Ravens relied so heavily on Geno Stone last season is because Marcus Williams was not always available. If his availability is no longer a concern this season and we get a full 17 games of Marcus and Kyle together on the field, that opens up way more possibilities for Zach Orr in his first season as the defensive coordinator from a flexibility standpoint. Wide receiver, Rashad Bateman. Moving on to the offense, in the second part of this video, we're going to talk about the wide receiver who could make the biggest difference on this offense, and that's Rashad Bateman. This is probably the pick which comes as the least surprising and was in fact the inspiration for doing this entire video. Last season, Zay Flowers was, if we're honest with ourselves, the only true threat at wide receiver. When I say that, I don't mean to discredit the efforts of guys like Nelson Aguilar or OBJ, but from a yards perspective, Zay was the most significant threat on the field. If Bateman can truly become as good as everyone thinks he can, and as good as we've seen him when he's healthy, combined with what we know Zay Flowers can do, this offense will truly become next level. Last year, opposing defenses typically only worried about Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews, but this year, opposing defenses will have no choice but to worry about Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and Rashad Bateman. Now, he doesn't need to be a 1,000-yard season, 10-touchdown receiver. The best and most dangerous thing that Rashad Bateman can be for this Ravens offense in 2024 is a threat at any down and distance to break a game wide open with his incredible route running and surprising top-end speed. If defenses genuinely have to worry about both Zay and Rashad when they're on the field together, it's going to make life a lot better for Lamar Jackson and a lot worse for the opponents. Running back, Keaton Mitchell. For the running backs, I think we all know what we want and expect from Derrick Henry, at least to some degree. The same could be said for Justice Hill, who we've seen in the Ravens system now for a few years. But if Keaton Mitchell can come back from his injury looking 85 to 90% of what we saw last year, the rest of the league is in trouble. Keaton isn't just fast, he's able to outrun correct angles taken by players in the secondary. Fans of other NFL teams who are nervous about the great things we could see from the combination of Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson should be outright terrified when the Ravens are able to add in Keaton Mitchell to this backfield. If Keaton is able to come back and play like he did last year for this offense, then the NFL's most dynamic rushing offense just became nigh unstoppable. Tight ends. Isaiah Likely. For the tight ends, the decision is pretty obvious. It's Isaiah Likely. I chose Likely for this because even though Ravens fans are fully aware of what he is capable of, we have yet to see both him and Mark Andrews being used on the field at the same time the right way. After the 2022 season was over and we had seen what Isaiah Likely could potentially be for this offense, I, along with many other Ravens fans, were licking our chops at what the combination of Andrews and him would be capable of. But we never got that. I understand that Mark Andrews is an incredible tight end and deserving to be in the top 3 conversation when he's healthy. But just because Mark Andrews is healthy doesn't mean Isaiah Likely isn't able to do the same things that he's able to do. I think Todd Monken is a good offensive coordinator. Having said that, though, I'm almost as upset with him for not utilizing Likely and Andrews together as I am with his play calling choices during the AFC Championship game. Similar to the argument that I made for Bateman in this video, Isaiah Likely presents a unique challenge for opposing defenses, as he is what I would describe the perfect blend of a wide receiver in a tight end's body. I know that both he and Mark Andrews can't get 10 targets each game while still trying to feed Zay and Rashad, but 11 targets through 11 games is unacceptable in my humble opinion. If used correctly, this tight end duo should, without question, be considered the best in the league by the end of the year. Offensive line, Ronnie Stanley. The final player with the potential to elevate this Ravens team beyond what we've seen before along the offensive line is a familiar face, left tackle Ronnie Stanley. Yes, I could have picked any of the new starters for this position, but Ronnie as the left tackle is without a doubt the most important piece to this offensive line when it comes to protecting Lamar Jackson, who is the most important piece to this offense. The last time we saw Ronnie Stanley fully healthy was in 2019, and he played like the best left tackle in the league. We don't need Ronnie to be an all-pro this year, though I wouldn't complain, of course. All we need from Ronnie is to stay healthy, protect Lamar Jackson in pass protection, and follow his assignment in the run game. If he can do those 3 things with the growth that we've seen from Lamar Jackson over the past 4 years, we will see an even better version of Lamar than we saw in 2019. If Lamar knows he's throwing from a clean pocket, or knows he's got a clear lane to run through with no second guessing or decision making, Lamar will be unstoppable. But all of that comes down to Ronnie Stanley being the best left tackle he can be at this point. It would be ridiculous, and of course extremely unrealistic, for me to say that all of these players will hit on the potential that I believe they can. But looking at each individual example that I've brought up, you can start to see how even if 2 or 3 of these players can achieve what I've set for them, this team becomes a lot better than it even looks on paper. For example, on defense, if Travis Jones, David Ojabo, and Nate Wiggins achieve the level of play and impact I see for them, the Ravens might achieve a new franchise sack record 2 years in a row. And on the offensive side of the ball, if even just Ronnie Stanley and Rashad Bateman come out and play at the level we know that they can when healthy, this offense can truly be one of the best in the league. I'm extremely excited about the potential for this Ravens roster in 2024, and I truly believe that they can be special for a second year in a row. If you enjoyed this video, please leave it a like. If you're new around here, subscribe, and don't forget to share any of your thoughts or opinions about the players that I've mentioned and their potential impact for the 2024 Ravens down in the comments section below. As always, guys, stay safe out there, and go Ravens.